Hey, amazing viewers! Before we go into this riveting narrative, drop your location in the comments below. We love connecting with you all around the world. Also, if this is your first time here, press the subscribe button and join our incredible journey. Let's hit 10,000 subscribers this month together. Your support means everything. The first encounter. The faint chime of the doorbell signaled another customer leaving, but Monica barely noticed. She had owned this small grocery store for years, and by now the hum of daily transactions, the soft rustle of shopping bags, and the occasional chatter from regulars blended into a comfortable rhythm. But today, something felt different. It was late afternoon when she noticed movement near the alley beside her store. She almost ignored it. Stray cats often rummaged through the trash. But a flicker of movement caught her eye. Something too deliberate, too cautious. Curiosity piqued. She stepped outside, wiping her hands on her apron. The alley was narrow, lined with stacked crates and a dented garbage bin near the back. A small figure was hunched over it, fingers disappearing into a plastic bag. "Hey, what are you doing back there?" Monica's voice was firm but not unkind. The figure jolted upright. It was a girl, maybe 10, 11 at most. Her dark eyes locked onto Monica's, wide and unyielding like a cornered animal. Fear flashed across her face, but there was something else too, defiance. Monica took a slow step forward. She noticed how neatly the girl's hair was tied back into a ponytail, how her sweatshirt, though faded, was clean. This wasn't a child who had been on the streets for long. So why was she here? "You don't need to do that," Monica said, softening her tone. "I've got food inside if you're hungry." The girl hesitated. Her small fingers gripped the crust of a discarded sandwich from the bag. Then, without a word, she stuffed it into her pocket and bolted down the alley. "Wait," Monica called out, but the girl had already disappeared into the maze of streets. For a long moment, Monica stood frozen, apron twisted in her hands. The distant hum of traffic filled the silence. But in her mind, she could still see those dark, wary eyes. She had seen hungry kids before, but something about this one unsettled her. The girl wasn't just scavenging, she was hiding. That night, as Monica locked up the store, she couldn't shake the image of the girl. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why did she look so put together but act so desperate? The next morning, Monica found herself glancing at the alley every few minutes. She told herself it was ridiculous, that the girl was probably long gone, but a small voice in her mind refused to let it go. Then, just before lunchtime, a shadow flickered past the window. Monica moved quietly to the back door, her pulse quickening. She peered out. There she was again. The same girl, dressed just as neatly as before, rummaging through the garbage. This time, she was quicker, more deliberate, as if she had practiced disappearing without a trace. Monica pressed a hand against the doorframe, hesitating. She didn't want to scare her off again. Instead, she stayed still, watching. The girl pulled out a partially wrapped sandwich, inspected it, and slipped it into her bag. Then, just as swiftly as before, she vanished. Over the next few days, it became a pattern. Every day, just before noon, the girl would appear, always alone, always silent. She never lingered, never made a sound. She avoided looking up, her movements cautious, scanning the alley as if expecting someone to chase her away. The more Monica observed, the more uneasy she felt. This wasn't a child simply looking for a meal. This was survival. And she was hiding from something far worse than hunger. By the fourth day, Monica couldn't just stand by anymore. She decided that this time, she'd be careful. She wouldn't scare the girl away. She would try to talk to her, to help. So she waited. When the girl arrived, Monica stepped out slowly, hands raised slightly to show she meant no harm. "Hey there," she said, keeping her voice gentle. "I see you've been coming by a lot." The girl froze, her hand still inside the garbage bin, her dark eyes darting toward Monica. "I'm not mad," Monica added quickly, "I just want to help. Are you okay? Do you need anything?" For a moment, the girl didn't move. Then, like a frightened rabbit, she yanked her hand out of the bin and bolted. "Wait, please. I'm not going to hurt you," Monica called after her, but she was already gone. Monica stood there, staring down the alley, frustration and worry twisting inside her. The girl didn't trust her, and trust wasn't something you could force. It had to be earned. That night, Monica couldn't sleep. The image of the girl haunted her. She replayed every moment of their brief interactions, wondering what she could have done differently. By morning, she had made up her mind. This time, she wouldn't just wait. She would prepare. She wrapped a fresh sandwich neatly in a napkin, tucking it into her hand as she stationed herself near the back door. Then she waited. Just as the clock struck 11:30, a shadow moved across the alleyway. Monica's pulse quickened. The girl was back. This time, Monica didn't move right away. She let the girl rummage, let her feel comfortable. Then, when the girl leaned forward to dig deeper into the bin, Monica stepped out, slowly. "Hey," she said gently, her voice barely above a whisper. The girl froze. Monica lifted the sandwich slightly. "I thought you might want something fresh instead of, well, whatever's in there." The girl didn't move, but she didn't run either. Monica took that as a small victory. She stepped a little closer, her movements slow and deliberate. "I don't mean to pry," she continued, "but you've been coming here a lot. I just want to make sure you're okay." The girl turned her head slightly, dark eyes peering at Monica from behind a loose strand of hair. There was that same mix of defiance and vulnerability. "You don't have to say anything," Monica added quickly, "but you can take this." She placed the sandwich on a clean section of the bin's lid and stepped back. For a long moment, the alley was silent except for the distant hum of traffic. Then, slowly, the girl inched forward, her eyes darting between Monica and the sandwich. With a quick motion, she snatched it up and stuffed it into her bag. "Thanks," she muttered. So quietly, Monica almost didn't hear it. Her heart swelled. It was a start. "Do you live around here?" Monica asked cautiously. The girl froze, her fingers tightening around the strap of her bag. "I mean, no pressure," Monica said quickly. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to." Without answering, the girl turned and walked away. Faster than before, Monica watched her disappear around the corner. This time, she didn't hesitate. She wiped her hands on her apron, adjusted her sneakers, and followed. Because whatever this girl was running from, Monica was going to find out. And she wasn't going to let her run forever. Following shadows, Monica's sneakers barely made a sound against the cracked pavement as she trailed behind the girl, keeping her distance. The late morning sun cast long shadows between the buildings, making the already narrow alleyways feel even more confined. Every few steps, the girl glanced over her shoulder, her small body tense with suspicion. Monica ducked behind a parked car as the girl turned a sharp corner. Her heart pounded. She wasn't sure if she had been seen, but she wasn't willing to lose her now. This was a risk, she knew that. A grown woman following a child through the back streets might not look right to someone watching, but Monica couldn't shake the unease curling in her gut. This girl wasn't just a hungry kid, she was surviving. And survival meant running from something, or someone. The girl moved fast, weaving through the streets with an instinctual grace, her small frame slipping between crowds of pedestrians like a ghost. She didn't just run, she knew where she was going. Monica hesitated as they reached the outskirts of the neighborhood. The area changed. The roads cracked wider. The storefronts turned into boarded-up buildings, and the air felt heavier, filled with the stale scent of neglect. She had lived in this town her whole life, but this part, it felt forgotten. Just when Monica thought she might lose her, the girl slowed down. Her pace became careful, her head tilting slightly as she scanned her surroundings. Then she slipped into a narrow alley between two rundown apartment buildings. Monica hurried to the edge of the alley, peering inside. The girl moved to the far end, toward what looked like an abandoned garage, its paint peeling, the roof sagging under years of weather damage. She glanced over her shoulder one last time before slipping inside through a rusted side door. Monica's breath caught. She wasn't alone. Through the gap in the door, Monica could just barely make out another small figure huddled on a tattered blanket. A younger boy, maybe 5 or 6. His clothes were more worn than the girl's, his thin arms wrapped around his knees, his small frame curled inward as if trying to make himself invisible. A dog, its fur patchy and matted, lay beside him, its tired eyes watching as the girl knelt down and pulled the sandwich from her bag. Monica swallowed the lump rising in her throat. This was why she was running. This was why she was digging through the garbage. She wasn't just trying to survive. She was keeping someone else alive too. Monica had always believed in minding her own business. But some things you couldn't ignore. Some things latched onto your conscience and wouldn't let go. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and stepped forward. Her foot barely touched the ground when the dog lifted its head, ears perking. It let out a low growl. The girl's head snapped up. In an instant, her entire body tensed, her arms shielding the boy as she turned toward the door. Monica raised her hands. "Hey," she said, keeping her voice soft. "It's okay." The girl didn't move. Monica could see the panic flicker across her face, her mind already calculating an escape route. She had seen that look before. The kind that came from someone who had been let down too many times. "I'm not here to hurt you," Monica continued. "I just wanted to make sure you were all right." The girl's dark eyes darted between Monica and the door, her chest rising and falling in quick, shallow breaths. The boy clung to her side. "You don't have to trust me," Monica said, taking a slow step back. "But I'm not going to call anyone. No cops. No social workers. No one's going to take him away." The girl flinched at that. She didn't deny it. That was all Monica needed to know. The girl's fingers trembled where they rested on the boy's shoulder. Her jaw clenched. "We don't need help," she muttered. Monica exhaled. "I think you do." The girl's glare hardened. "We're fine." "You're living in an abandoned garage," Monica said, her voice calm but firm. "That's not fine." The girl's grip on the boy tightened. Monica sighed and reached into the bag she had brought with her. Slowly, she pulled out another sandwich, then a small bottle of water, and set them gently on the ground. "No strings," she said, "just food." The girl hesitated. The dog let out a quiet whimper, its tail wagging weakly as it lifted its head toward the scent. Monica took another step back. The girl stared at the food for a long moment. Then, in one swift motion, she grabbed the sandwich and handed it to the boy. He unwrapped it quickly, his small hands trembling as he took a bite. The girl's eyes flickered with something unreadable. Relief, maybe, but buried under layers of caution. Monica didn't move. "What's your name?" she asked gently. The girl stiffened. Then, after a long pause, she muttered, "Maya." Monica nodded, as if committing it to memory. "And him?" Maya hesitated, then glanced at the boy. "Jason," she said quietly. Jason looked up, crumbs on his lips, his wide eyes peeking out from behind Maya's arm. He didn't speak, but he didn't look away either. "Nice to meet you, Jason," Monica said with a small smile. He didn't smile back. Maya's fingers twitched. "You're going to keep coming back, aren't you?" she asked. Monica shrugged. "Guess that depends." "On what?" "On whether you two want me to." Maya's lips pressed into a thin line. She looked at Jason, then back at Monica. Finally, she exhaled, the tension in her shoulders easing. "Just a little." "Fine," she muttered. "But no cops, no social workers. No one tries to take Jason away." Monica held up her hand. "I promise." For the first time, Maya didn't argue. She didn't run. She just sat there, watching Monica, her fingers still clenched around Jason's sleeve. Monica took a slow breath. She had found them. Now she just had to make sure she didn't lose them. A safe place or a trap. The sky was turning a muted gray when Monica stepped back onto the sidewalk, her breath curling into the crisp evening air. She didn't know what had just happened back there. All she knew was that her heart was still pounding. Maya didn't trust her. Not yet. That much was clear. But she hadn't run. And that was something. Monica pulled her jacket tighter around herself as she walked back toward her store, her mind replaying every word, every flicker of emotion she had seen in Maya's face. The way her fingers had tightened protectively around Jason's sleeve. The way she had hesitated before taking the food. The way she had demanded, no cops, no social workers. Monica had known kids like Maya before. Not homeless, not at first, but turned into ghosts of the system. Kids who had lost everything, only to find that the world didn't have a place for them anymore. She had seen that look in their eyes, and she had learned that trust, once broken, was something that took time to rebuild. If it could be rebuilt at all. The next morning, Monica barely slept that night. By morning, she had made up her mind. She would go back. Not to push, not to force. Just to be there. She packed a small bag, slipping in fresh sandwiches, bottled water, and a thick blanket. Something warm, something soft, something that said, "You don't have to do this alone." Then she waited. She arrived at the alley just before noon, her steps careful as she approached the garage. Her breath hitched when she saw the door ajar. Something was different. There was no sign of Maya or Jason. The blanket was still there, but it was crumpled, as if they had left in a hurry. Monica's stomach twisted. Had she scared them off? Had someone else found them first? Then movement. A soft scuffling sound from the shadows. Monica froze. "Maya," she called gently. Silence. Then, slowly, a small face peeked out from behind a stack of crates. Jason. His wide eyes darted toward her, cautious but not terrified. He clutched a half-eaten piece of bread in his hands, his small fingers gripping it as if he expected it to be taken from him. Monica exhaled in relief. "Hey, kiddo," she said softly, kneeling down to his level. Jason didn't answer, but he didn't run either. Monica reached into the bag and pulled out a juice box, placing it on the ground in front of her. "Thirsty?" Jason hesitated. Then, slowly, he reached out, snatched the juice box, and retreated behind the crates. Monica smiled. Progress. Then, from the corner of her eye, she saw her. Maya, standing just outside the garage door, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. "You came back," she said, her voice flat. Monica nodded. "Told you I would." Maya's jaw tightened. "Why?" Monica sighed, adjusting her position so she was sitting on the ground, her back against the wall. "Because I care." Maya scoffed. "People like you always say that. Then you turn us in." Monica didn't flinch. "I told you, no cops, no social workers. No one takes Jason away." Maya studied her, as if searching for a lie. Then, finally, she exhaled. "People have tried to help before," she muttered. "They always make it worse." Monica nodded slowly. "What happened, Maya?" Maya's fingers twitched at her sides. Then, for the first time, she spoke. "The truth comes out. Our house burned down," Maya said quietly. Monica's breath caught. "It was late," she continued. "Jason was asleep. Mom and Dad were watching TV. I smelled something burning. I thought maybe someone left something on the stove, but then the alarms went off." Her voice was steady, but there was a tremble beneath it. Jason sat still, his small body curled into himself. "I grabbed him and ran," Maya whispered. "I don't even remember how we got outside. I just remember the heat, the smoke, and then it was all gone." Monica swallowed the lump in her throat. Maya's jaw clenched. They didn't make it. A silence stretched between them. Monica didn't say, "I'm sorry." She knew that words like that didn't mean anything. Instead, she waited. Maya exhaled shakily. The social workers came after that. They said Jason and I couldn't stay together, that we'd be put in different homes. Her voice hardened, like we were stray dogs that needed separating. Monica's chest tightened. I couldn't let them take him. Maya lifted her chin, her eyes dark and determined. So we ran. Jason sniffled quietly, but Maya reached out, squeezing his small hand. Monica took a slow breath. How long? Maya shrugged. A few months. I stopped counting. Monica felt a weight settle in her chest. A child. Running. Alone. Surviving in back alleys and abandoned buildings. Keeping her little brother alive. She had seen strong people before. But this was something else. Monica exhaled. You shouldn't have to do this alone. Maya's fingers tightened around Jason's. Nobody else cares. Monica held her gaze. I do. Maya scoffed, shaking her head. You have a house, she muttered. A business. A life. You don't need 2 extra problems. Monica's chest ached. You're not problems, she said firmly. Maya didn't respond. Monica hesitated, then reached into her bag. I brought something, she said, pulling out the blanket. Figured you might need it. Maya eyed it warily. It's warm, Monica added. And clean. Jason was the first to move. He reached for it, his small fingers curling into the fabric. Maya watched as he pulled it close, a flicker of something unreadable crossing her face. Why are you doing this? She asked quietly. Monica smiled softly. Because no one should have to go through this alone. Maya didn't answer, but she didn't argue. And for the first time, Monica saw it. A crack in the wall Maya had built around herself. It wasn't much, but it was enough. For now, a crack in the wall Maya had built around herself. It wasn't much, but it was enough. For now, a fragile trust. Monica sat in silence, her back pressed against the cold, cracked wall of the abandoned garage. She didn't move, didn't push, didn't say anything else. Sometimes, silence was the only way to show someone you weren't going anywhere. Jason curled up in the blanket she had brought, his small fingers gripping the fabric as if it were the only solid thing in his world. His eyelids fluttered, his exhaustion too heavy to fight. The dog, a scrappy-looking mutt with patches of fur missing, rested his chin on Jason's lap, his tired eyes watching Monica warily. Maya sat on the far side of the room, her arms wrapped around her knees, her body still tense as she watched Monica. You haven't left, Maya muttered after a while. Monica met her gaze. I told you, I'm not going anywhere. Maya huffed. People always say that. Monica sighed, stretching her legs out. Yeah, well, people are idiots sometimes. That earned her a flicker of something, maybe amusement, maybe skepticism, but it was gone in an instant. You think you can fix this? Maya asked, her voice quieter now. Like some kind of hero. Monica shook her head. No, I just think you shouldn't have to do this alone. Maya scoffed, pulling her sleeves over her hands. We've been fine alone. Monica raised an eyebrow. Really? Because Jason looks like he's barely eaten in days. And you? She gestured toward Maya's thin frame, her 2 sharp cheekbones, the way her sweater hung off her shoulders like it belonged to someone twice her size. You look like you're carrying the weight of the whole world on your back. Maya's fingers twitched around her sleeves. Monica exhaled, deciding to push just a little more. How long has it been since you've had a real meal? A safe place to sleep? Maya's jaw clenched, but she didn't answer. Monica softened her voice. You're strong, Maya. Stronger than most adults I know. But being strong doesn't mean you have to do everything alone. Maya didn't look at her. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out something small, a crumpled piece of paper, folded so many times it was barely holding together. She hesitated, then tossed it toward Monica. It landed on the ground between them. Monica frowned, picking it up carefully and unfolding it. Her breath caught. It was a missing persons flyer. 2, actually. 1 for Maya, 1 for Jason. Their faces stared back at her, printed in grainy black and white. The word missing stamped across the top in bold, heavy letters. Monica looked up. Maya's expression was unreadable, but her hands were clenched into fists. "We're not going back," Maya said, her voice sharp, like a knife's edge. "We're not going into foster care. Not ever." Monica ran her fingers over the paper, her heart twisting. This wasn't just 2 kids on the streets. This was 2 wanted kids. And now, Monica had a choice to make. The breaking point. Maya was staring at her, waiting for her reaction. Waiting for the moment Monica would do what every other adult had done. Waiting for her to call someone. To turn them in. To rip Jason away from her. Monica took a slow breath, folding the papers neatly and setting them down beside her. "I'm not calling anyone," she said simply. Maya's eyes narrowed. "You say that now." Monica leaned forward slightly. "I mean it, Maya. But I need to know why. Why are you so afraid of going back?" Maya let out a short, humorless laugh. "You think foster care is some fairy tale, some magical place where we get to be happy." She shook her head. "They don't care about us. We're just numbers to them. A case file to be shuffled around. They'd wanted to split us up. And when I fought back, they called me difficult. Uncooperative." Her voice was laced with bitterness. "They don't care about keeping families together. They care about rules. About control." Monica swallowed hard. She had always known the system was broken. She had just never seen the cracks this close. Jason stirred slightly in his sleep, shifting under the blanket. Maya's hand immediately went to his hair, smoothing it down instinctively. Monica's chest ached. This girl had been fighting so hard for so long. And she was so tired. A different choice. "You can stay with me," Monica said suddenly. Maya's head snapped up, her eyes wide with suspicion. "What?" "You heard me," Monica said, leaning back against the wall. "You and Jason. Come stay at my place. Just for a while. No strings, no expectations. Just a warm bed, real food, and a safe place to breathe." Maya's lips parted slightly, like she wanted to argue, but something in her eyes shifted. "You don't even know us," she said, but her voice lacked its usual sharpness. Monica smiled. "I know enough." Maya's fingers dug into the fabric of her sweater. "You don't get it," she whispered. "If we go with you, if we let you help, what if it all falls apart? What if you decide we're too much?" Monica exhaled, meeting Maya's gaze steadily. "I don't make promises I can't keep," she said. "And I'm telling you right now, I won't change my mind." Maya's eyes flickered with something Monica couldn't quite place. Hope, maybe. Or fear of hoping. She looked at Jason, her fingers brushing his hair. Then, after what felt like forever, she whispered, "Okay." Monica exhaled. Relief. Determination. Hope. It wouldn't be easy. But it was a start. And sometimes, a start was all you needed. A new beginning. The drive back to Monica's house was silent, but the air inside the car felt thick with unspoken emotions. Jason sat in the back seat, his tiny hands gripping the leash of the scrappy dog, who rested its chin on his lap. Maya sat beside him, her back pressed stiffly against the seat, her arms crossed as she stared out the window. Monica could feel her unease. She wasn't just taking a ride to someone's house. She was stepping into something unknown, something terrifying. For so long, Maya's entire world had been control. She controlled how they survived. She controlled where they slept, how they hid, when they ran. And now she had to trust someone else. It wasn't easy. It wasn't simple. And Monica didn't expect it to be. The first night, Monica had kept things simple when they arrived. No grand gestures, no overwhelming welcomes. Just warmth. She had led them to the small guest room in the back of her house. Nothing fancy, just a bed, a dresser, and a window overlooking a quiet backyard. Jason had immediately crawled onto the bed, burying himself under the covers with a deep, exhausted sigh. The dog followed, curling up at his feet, its tail thumping lazily against the mattress. But Maya stood by the door, her hands clenched, her eyes darting around the room as if waiting for something bad to happen. Monica leaned against the doorway, watching her carefully. "You can relax, you know," Monica said gently. Maya's jaw tightened. "I don't know how." The words hit Monica harder than she expected. She took a step inside, moving slowly, cautiously. "How about this?" Monica said. "Tonight, you don't have to worry about anything. No planning. No running. No thinking about tomorrow. Just sleep." Maya let out a short, humorless laugh. "Sleep," she muttered. "Yeah, sure. Like I even remember what that's supposed to feel like." Monica hesitated. Then, without saying a word, she pulled a folded quilt from the dresser and draped it over the chair in the corner. "For whenever you're ready," she said simply. Maya didn't respond, but she didn't leave either. And that was enough. The breaking point. It happened at 2:37 a.m. Monica had just started to drift into sleep when she heard it. A small, muffled sob. She sat up immediately, listening. Then she heard it again. Monica slipped out of bed, moving quietly down the hall. She reached the guest room and pushed the door open just enough to see inside. Maya was sitting on the floor, curled up in the corner, her arms wrapped around her knees. She was shaking. Not just from exhaustion, not just from cold, but from the sheer weight of everything she had been holding in for so long. Monica's heart twisted. She didn't say anything, didn't push, didn't ask if she was okay, because she wasn't. Instead, Monica crossed the room, sat down beside her, and leaned her back against the wall. No words, just presence. Maya didn't look at her, didn't acknowledge her. But after a few minutes, she whispered, "I don't know how to stop being scared." Monica closed her eyes for a second, steadying her breath. "Then don't," she said softly. "Just let yourself be scared. You don't have to fight it alone anymore." Maya swallowed hard. Her fingers curled into the fabric of her sweatshirt. And then, slowly, hesitantly, she leaned her head against Monica's shoulder. Monica stayed still, her throat tightening. This girl, this strong, stubborn, fiercely independent girl, was finally allowing herself to lean on someone else. Not completely. Not permanently. But for the first time in a long time, she wasn't carrying everything alone. And for now, that was enough. 1 week later, Monica came home from work to find Jason sitting at the kitchen table, scribbling with a handful of colored pencils. She smiled, setting a bag of groceries on the counter. "What are you working on, kiddo?" Jason beamed, holding up his drawing. It was crude, made with uncertain strokes, but Monica could make out the shapes. A small house, a scrappy-looking dog, and 3 stick figures standing side by side. One of them had long hair. The other had curly lines that Monica realized were supposed to be her apron, and the last one had a tiny smile. Monica's chest tightened. Maya's voice cut through the moment. "Jason, I told you to stop wasting paper," she grumbled as she walked into the kitchen. Jason pouted. "It's not wasting. It's a gift for Monica." Maya rolled her eyes, but there was no bite in her tone. She turned to Monica. "He's been obsessed with drawing lately," she muttered. Monica smiled, ruffling Jason's hair. "I love it," she said. Jason's face lit up, and he turned back to his drawing with renewed excitement. Maya leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "He's happy here," she admitted after a pause. Monica met her gaze. "And you?" Maya hesitated. Then, in a voice so quiet it was almost a whisper, she said, "I don't know yet." Monica didn't push. Instead, she turned back to Jason, who was now adding a sun to the top corner of his paper. "You know, Monica said, "We should put that up on the fridge." Jason gasped. "Really?" "Of course," Monica said. "This is a masterpiece." Jason giggled as Monica grabbed a magnet and stuck the drawing onto the fridge door. Maya watched the scene unfold, her arms still crossed, but her shoulders weren't as tense as before. There was still a long road ahead. Maya still had walls to lower, still had wounds to heal. But for the first time since Monica had met her, Maya looked like she wasn't just surviving. She looked like she might actually be starting to live. And that was the real victory. This concludes the story. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope you found it enjoyable. If you did, please consider liking the video and sharing it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell for more captivating stories. Have a great day.